This podcast is supported by MIDI Health. Are you in midlife, feeling dismissed, unheard, or just plain tired of the old healthcare system? You're not alone. In fact, even today, 75% of women seeking care for menopause and perimenopause issues are left entirely untreated. But it's time for a change. It's time for MIDI. MIDI's not just a healthcare provider. It's a women's telehealth clinic founded and supported by world-class leaders in women's health. Their clinicians provide one-on-one, face-to-face consultations where they truly listen to your unique needs. They offer a full range of holistic, data-driven solutions that isn't one-size-fits-all care. This is care uniquely tailored for you. At MIDI, you will find that their mission is clear: to help all women thrive in midlife, giving them access to the healthcare they deserve. Because they believe midlife isn't the middle at all. It is the beginning of your second act. Ready to feel your best and write your second act script? Visit joinmidi.com today to book your personalized, insurance-covered virtual visit. That's joinmidi.com. MIDI, the care women deserve.
You're listening to Make Some Noise podcast, episode number 717. Welcome to Make Some Noise podcast, your guide for strategies, tools, and insight to empower yourself. I'm your host, Andrea Owen, global speaker, entrepreneur, life coach since 2007, and author of 3 books that have been translated into 18 languages and are available in 22 countries. Each week, I'll bring you a guest or a lesson that will help you maximize unshakable confidence, master resilience, and make some noise in your life. You ready? Let's go. Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the podcast. I am so glad that you are here during this crazy time in history. I'm not going to say the word unprecedented. It is, wow. All right, we're going to get into that kind of stuff in just a minute. But I wanted to tell you how excited I am about Substack. I have been talking about it the last few weeks, and I've written a few things over there. It's called How Very Human of You. I'm excited for a couple of reasons, and I want to highlight those in hopes that it might help you about something in your life. So Substack is kind of one of those things now that's turned into, so for those people that don't know, Substack is like, it's kind of like it's a writing platform, kind of like blogging, but they've also created it to have a bit of a social media element. And it's a place that people can go to write, but people also do audio over there and other ways of media. And the reason that I like it is because it's a lot of writing, and I haven't seen a platform like that in a long time. But what I wanted to say was that, especially if you're doing it as part of your professional life, it's a business. It is a business, and that is honestly the thing that has kept me from it for so long. And I had my peers and colleagues were like, make sure you do it right, get a header, name it, do all this, blah, blah, blah. Strategize. I procrastinated until finally I got tired of talking about how badly I wanted to write, and I just did it. I was not ready. I don't know what's going to happen by the time this episode comes out, but as I am recording this at the end of February, there is no header. It's just... I just went for it. And I wanted to tell you that short story because I want to be an example of someone who just jumps before they are ready, just starts before everything is prepared. And if you have anything in your life that you've been procrastinating on because it's not ready, it's not perfect, it's not good enough, I hope that this can serve as encouragement and inspiration for you just to start the damn thing, especially if it's about making your art. Especially if it's about making your art. It doesn't have to be writing. It can be really anything else. Okay. I also have openings for my one-on-one devotion program. If you are interested in that, andreaowen.com/you, YOU, and you can read more about it over there. All right. So let's get into it. Today's episode comes to you by way of an Instagram reel that I made based on some content actually by other men that was being made, asking where the men are in regard to what we're seeing with the Epstein files and just the the drama and the trauma that has come from that. And, no arrests have been made except in other countries. But here we are in the United States, and it's been a lot, right? And I get it. I've been saying that. Where are the men? What are the men doing? A lot of men are silent right now. And so I kept hearing this question online, seeing it on Facebook, people getting angry, mostly women, but a couple of men here and there asking where all the men were. And I'm over here raising my hand going, I think I know. I think I know what's happening in terms of why they are so quiet. And I want to take a second to tell you why I think that it's important for me to talk about this. I probably, like you, am sort of I think I'm in like the thawing out phase right now, but just sort of in shock of listening to everything and being sort of bombarded by all of the different news stories and all of the different allegations and crimes that we are finding out. And they are horrific. They are probably beyond anything that we could have ever imagined, or at the very least, they are our worst nightmare coming out. And so I do think a lot of people are shocked, but I also think there's more to it. And one of my sort of special interests, I suppose, is sensing and feeling what's going on around me under the surface. There's a Buffalo Springfield song. It's an old song. Probably came out, I think, around the time I was born, maybe before that. And the opening line is, "There's something happening here." And I've always loved that song. It's a great classic 70s rock song. But that opening lyric, that line, is a feeling that I've had from as young as I can remember. Just that there's something going on underneath the surface. There's something happening here, but I didn't know what it was. Come to find out, it was emotions that I was feeling and sensing. Just emotions, no big deal. And so now as an adult, coincidentally, or maybe not coincidentally, I end up in a vocation, a career that allows me to learn about them, to understand emotions better and how they show up in different humans based on our culture, based on our personalities, based on lots of different things. And obviously they're hard to sort of pin down and pinpoint. Everyone is different and everyone has their own experience of how they feel and process emotions. But there are some that have been studied enough that we know are happening, that are really just part of the biological and physiological human experience. And today I'm going to talk about shame. As you've probably heard me say on the podcast, there are a handful of emotions that I take a special interest in. I call them the holy emotions. They are shame, terror, grief, and rage. And I will link to the show notes, the episode that I did about a year ago where I go more in depth. And I think I'm going to write about each one of these on Substack. Also, I'm going to write about this podcast on Substack. If you want to go read it and share it, link in the show notes. P.S. I am doing something smarter than usual, and I am going to focus one topic per week on social media and writing to you guys and here on the podcast. It's going to make my life a whole lot easier. I highly recommend to anyone that does this. Anyway, over on Substack, you'll see the reel that I made on Instagram about this. It's a very condensed 3.5-minute version, and I'm going to write about it. So let's get into it before I delay anymore. Today, I'm talking about shame and what, in my professional opinion, is happening with men right now with the release of the Epstein files and why so many of them are very, very quiet. Another reason I wanted to talk about this on the show is that I hope that this might help you, those of you that are in relationships with men. Maybe it could be an entry point for you to talk to them about and just ask some questions, ask some curious questions. Maybe you send this podcast interview to them or my Substack article and just ask them, like, what do you think? What do you think about what this lady is saying? I'm going to start from the very beginning and let's talk about shame. And shame pretty much tells us at its core, shame is the feeling that there is something wrong with me. as we know from research and from what Brene Brown has taught us, guilt is I did something wrong, I made a mistake. Guilt is something that typically isn't as difficult for us to take accountability for. Yes, uncomfortable, but guilt can sometimes be helpful because it's the thing that often makes us try to change our behavior if we made a mistake. I work with guilt a lot with women in terms of, for example, mom guilt or feeling guilty if you are delegating at work and things like that. So if you want to look at guilt through the lens of asking yourself, if you feel guilty, like, what mistake did I make here? Did I make a mistake somewhere here that I need to take accountability for, that I could make amends for, that I call it cleaning up, when you've made a mistake and you're trying to fix it. And if not, then you might want to dig a little bit deeper into guilt. But I'm not here to talk about guilt. I'm here to talk about shame, because when we're talking about shame and patriarchy, that's what we're going to talk about. Patriarchy, built on a hierarchy, right? Men grow up learning from our culture that they are dominant, that they are the more rational ones. They also learn that they're sexually entitled. They learn that they are protectors. They also learn that they are powerful. And when they grow up that way and then they build their identity around that, that also gets rewarded. So the more dominant, rational, sexually entitled, more protecting, more powerful they are rewarded socially, economically, politically. I heard something one day on social media where it was a woman and she said, boys aren't raised to be men. They are raised to not be girls. I said that to my 18-year-old son, and I didn't even get the whole sentence out. And he said, yep. He understands already what our culture teaches boys. And again, when they have that identity, they are rewarded politically, they are rewarded economically, they are rewarded socially. And so present day, imagine discovering or being forced to confront that the system that handed you your identity as a child from birth is the same exact system that protected abusers for decades, probably hundreds of years. That system normalized exploitation of vulnerable people. It greatly minimized harm, and it's silencing survivors. And there's no justice happening around all of this. And I think that men are looking at all of this and what's happening, and it's highly, highly destabilizing. They don't know what to do. Especially for the men who really know, whether consciously or unconsciously, that they have benefited from the structure of patriarchy, even if it's subtly. There is likely an unconscious sort of collision that's happening inside of them, is this sort of thought process of, okay, if this system is not just broken, if this system is horrible and harmful and like just rotten to the core, what does that say about me? So this is where shame comes in. And so also, the thing that we know about shame is that it's highly correlated. There's research to back this up. It's highly correlated to aggression, violence, addiction, isolation, and it's also highly correlated to homicide. Okay? Yikes, I know. So shifting gears a little bit, I'm going to talk about why shame creates either silence or aggression. One of the things that I teach when I'm teaching the Daring Way methodology, which is the methodology based on Brene Brown's research on shame resilience and courage and connection. So when anyone is in shame, or even many times where the risk of shame is present, they may not even be in shame, but the risk of shame is present, but this always happens when shame is present. It has 3 responses that people will engage in. So if I am feeling shame, this is regardless of gender. If I'm feeling shame, whether someone shamed me on purpose or I have an experience where shame floods me, even if nobody's around, one of three things is going to happen. I'm going to either withdraw, and that's where isolation comes in. That's where complete silence comes in. This is where people shut down. So if you are someone, or you're in a relationship with someone, or you know someone who will shut down when something highly emotional happens and it's something that you know is really difficult, it's probably because it's shame, and that's what they do. Okay, that's response number one, withdrawal. This is also when people will completely like fall off, just go MIA. That's the withdrawal. Okay, the second one is attacking others. And so I call this one fighting shame with shame. All right, so have you ever been in an argument with someone and they will use something vulnerable against you and they'll basically shame you? This happens a lot in our family relationships, like our family of origin relationships. This can happen also in not so great arguments with significant others. So you feel shame about something someone just threw at you, and you throw it back. So then you suddenly think of the thing that you know will hurt them, and you throw it back at them. Okay, when you kind of, this is the worst. This like makes my stomach hurt even to think about times that I've done this. When you it becomes like a competition. It's like a food fight where you're just, who can throw the most hurtful and shaming thing back and forth at each other. That's attacking others. I am also seeing this, P.S., in my DMs on social media. The amount of men and women, there are some women, I'm going to write about that one of these days, who are shaming me, but I'm seeing threats in my DMs from very angry men when I push back and say really difficult things on the internet for people to look at and think about. I am receiving actual threats. If you go to my Instagram, there's a carousel post I posted a week or two ago, and there's a slide in there where I took a screenshot of a veiled death threat that I got in my DMs a few weeks ago in kind of the beginning of February. It's wild. And so attacking others is when someone cannot face or deal or talk about or accept the thing in the room that's happening, the shame that they're feeling. So in order to even deal with it, they reflect it back and they throw it at me in the case of the DMs that I just told you about. But it's basically shame flipping outward. If they can attack me or whoever else, they don't have to feel this horrible collapse inside of themselves. So they're doubling down, basically. They're doubling down on shame, and they are just pulling up their armor so it just bounces off of them. Remember that? If whatever you say is, I'm rubber, you're glue, or whatever it is. That's what's happening there. And so the last shame response, so remember the first one was withdrawal. The second one is attacking others that I just talked about. The third one is attacking self. And this is where you might see the rare man who is either publicly or quietly at home or with his closest friends and therapist or whomever, where they're unpacking their own participation in patriarchy. It's shame metabolized hopefully into some sort of accountability. And this is important for me to mention, this next part. This is emotional labor that most men have never been socialized to do. We need to take a quick ad break, and when we get back, I'm going to talk a little bit more about this. Okay, we'll be right back.
1 second, you're finally cleaning out the gutters. The next, the fire alarm blares from inside. Smoke billows out the kitchen window. These are the wake-up calls that happen daily. In 1 second, everything can change. ADT knows that nobody wants to feel unsafe or unprepared for an emergency, especially in their own home. That's why they offer affordable DIY security systems you can set up yourself and monitor from virtually anywhere with the ADT Plus app. They're customizable so you can set up the system that works best for you and keep an eye on it in real time. And ADT security technology is designed for peace of mind by making it easier for first responders to identify your house. They have the most company-operated monitoring centers in the industry, which means you'll get the alerts that matter for you and your home. You tackle that to-do list, ADT will help make sure your home's protected. When every second counts, count on ADT. Visit ADT.com to learn more.
This show is sponsored by MIDI Health. Listen, there are times in life when we practice acceptance. I talk about it all the time here on the show. We let things go, we breathe through it, we rise above. But menopause, not one of those times. If you're in perimenopause or menopause and something feels off in your body and you're being told you're too young, it's just stress, or your symptoms are normal, don't let them tell you that. If your hair is thinning, your sleep is not okay, your mood is on a roller coaster, and someone just shrugs it off, don't let them. If hot flashes are hijacking your life or it's taking months or years to get real answers, don't let them. You deserve actual care, not dismissal or gaslighting, and no outdated information from a system that was never built with midlife women in mind in the first place. That's why I love what MIDI Health is doing. They're a virtual clinic created by women for women, specializing in midlife hormonal transitions. They personalize treatment, offer FDA-approved hormonal and non-hormonal options, and they're available 24/7. And yes, they take insurance. This is about advocating for yourself. This is about better care, period. Book your virtual visit today at joinmidi.com. That's joinmidi.com.
Close your eyes. Focus. Listen to work getting done with Monday.com. Relax as AI does the manual work, while your teams are aligned on a single source of truth. Feel the sensation of an AI work platform, so flexible and intuitive, it feels like it was built just for you. Notice you're limitless. Now open your eyes, go to Monday.com. Start for free and finally, breathe.
Okay, we're back. You know, I don't know about you, but the few men that I have seen talking about this publicly, where they're just sort of taking accountability and learning and sort of doing their own work. And the comment section you'll see, especially if they're a big creator, is full of women thanking him because it's rare, right? When a man names the water he's been swimming in and benefiting from, the air he's been breathing and benefiting from, it feels very rare. And as a practitioner of this type of work, I have been paying close attention. It is very interesting to me. So I'll tell you a quick anecdote. Many years ago, this was back when I used to just blog. This is before I started my podcast. Many years ago, I came from the fitness industry. For those of you that don't know, before I had this job, I worked in the fitness industry. My undergrad is in kinesiology. And in the beginning of my blogging days, so this was like 2008 to maybe 2011, I would talk a little bit about body image. And, I was on a bit of a rant about just the fitness industry in general. I was fucking tired of it. I was tired of it telling women that they needed to look a certain way. That's the hill I was dying on at the moment. And I was getting a lot of comments, pushback really, where people were saying, yeah, that's so easy for you to talk about, given that naturally I'm what would be considered a smaller bodied person. And at first I would kind of bristle at those comments. And my friend and colleague, Mara Glatzel, she's been here on the podcast. She is the one who pointed me to pretty privilege. And she wrote a guest, I wonder if it still exists, on my post. And so she is a woman in a larger body and also is beautiful. And she talked about how she also has pretty privilege. And I tell this story because it was the first time everyone kind of pointed to the air I breathe and the water that I was swimming in. And I am thankful to her because she helped me look at things differently. And also just to be able to unpack the whole concept of privilege and look at how much privilege I have. And so I think that what this has to do with men is that, here's what I think. And I'm speaking generally here, per usual, right? I think that in 2017, like when the Kavanaugh hearings happened and the Me Too movement happened, I think that there were a lot of men who were kind of looking around and going like, maybe there is something to be said about this whole patriarchy thing. And maybe my significant other is telling the truth when she says she does not know a woman who at the very least has been sexually harassed by a man. And so many of them have sexual assault stories. Like maybe there's something to that. And so now I think what we're seeing happen is a lot of those same men are looking around, and it's a little bit of a more intense scale right now. But because so many men have built their identity on being, quote unquote, one of the good guys and genuinely feeling like they protect women and sort of othering themselves against people like we're seeing in the Epstein files, it's like, I'm not like one of those men. And so then suddenly this massive, massive systemic abuse is exposed. I think what's happening is that many men, and perhaps still unconsciously, are asking themselves, did I totally miss this my whole life? Did I benefit from this? This is where the shame kicks in. Have I laughed at things I shouldn't have laughed at? Have I had sex with women that I probably shouldn't have because they had been drinking too much? Have I been silent when I should have spoken up? Did I pressure someone too much into doing things that she might not want to have done? I think a lot of men are being confronted with memories, with stories that they've heard, with things that they know that their friends have done, with things that they know that they have done. And it's not that they are having to confront complicity on a criminal level. I think some of them, yes, but I think most of them are having to confront their own complicity on a cultural level. Cultural complicity is harder to even see, let alone process and metabolize, because it's invisible. It's everywhere. It's absolutely everywhere, because men were raised in a system that rewarded their dominance, that minimized vulnerability, that mocked accountability as weakness. There's even names for it. Our culture taught them that their worth is tied to power over people, not power with people, power over. And so this whole system, this same system that has benefited them their whole lives, that they've been able to mostly ignore, is being publicly scrutinized. They're having an identity earthquake. And again, when identity earthquakes happen, most people will drop into shame. And so they will either double down and get angry and slide into my DMs and threaten me, or argue with people on the internet, or they will go quiet and silent. That might be what you're seeing in your homes and in your lives. Or they transform. Those are pretty much their three options. They either double down, they go quiet in silence, or they transform. And I want to also take a moment to talk about the harassment that we're also seeing, and that maybe some of you who are also very outspoken online like I am, or even in your real life, that are getting pushback on. Especially because a lot of the threats that I'm getting and harassment are from anonymous accounts. I know a lot of them are bots, but some of them are from real people that specifically have like troll accounts. When they anonymously threaten me or demean me, it's not just trolls. It is shame armored up as rage, because patriarchy taught men that having control over people is masculinity. Being able to silence women is also power, is control for them. And when power equals control and control equals their masculinity is their worth. It's a fucking terrible system. And I hate that for all men, but that's the culture that raised us. And so when a woman speaks critically about patriarchy, it threatens their control and power, it threatens their masculinity, and it threatens their worth, all three. It threatens their control, it threatens their masculinity, and it threatens their worth. Which I love to do, I become a mirror to them. That's what the confronting means. And those mirrors become intolerable when someone is swimming in shame. I have also learned that from my romantic relationships that I've had in the past. Even I have some dating stories that aren't that old that I could tell you about because all of us, we become mirrors in our relationships. And when someone is swimming in shame, looking in that mirror can be intolerable. Being in the relationship with someone who is confronting to you, even if their words aren't confronting, when it's just how they behave and the accountability that they expect from you, that can be a shaming situation that men get in. And so they try to break the mirror. That's what the aggression is. That's what the attacks are. And I also want to say that patriarchy is soaked in shame, not just for men. It's soaked in shame for everyone. And the way Brene names how shame shows up differently, depending on your gender, is she says it's organized differently by gender. Shame shows up the same way physically and physiologically inside of us. When I work with people one-on-one, in the Daring Way, when I really take people through this and have them learn, teach them shame resilience, I have clients get really comfortable. I say, like, you need to get in bed with shame. In other words, like, you get intimate with knowing how shame operates, not just in your mind, but in your body. So physiologically, shame typically shows up exactly the same regardless of gender, but it's organized differently. So women are socialized into experiencing shame. Shame is about taking up space. P.S. Wrote a book about that. It's called Make Some Noise. Link in the show notes. Shame is about taking up space for women. It's about our anger and rage. We are socialized into feeling shame if we have anger or rage. Shame oftentimes is wrapped up in our desires, especially when they're sexual desires or just like pleasure in general. Shame is about our ambitions. It's about aging. You could do a whole podcast episode just on that. And I don't want to walk away without being very, very specific. Shame is about our sexuality, unless it's performative for men. And oftentimes that's also shame. And so for men are often socialized into shame about their own vulnerabilities or just being vulnerable in general. It's shame. They have shame about fear, about emotional intimacy, very much about emotional intimacy. They have shame about not being dominant enough, not being protective enough, not being controlling enough. They have shame about weakness. No one's surprised by that. And definitely have shame about not measuring up sexually or financially. A lot of times it's about their looks, but it looks a little bit different for men. So I just wanted to kind of name the sort of different symptoms. And we need to take another quick ad break. But when we get back, I want to give you suggestions on how to talk to men in your life about this, where we can start kind of slow.
You know that thing where you get an amazing pair of shoes at a really great price and want to tell everyone about it? Yeah, so do we. Here at Designer Shoe Warehouse, we'll give you something to brag about, like the latest styles from brands you love, or the trends everyone's obsessing over, or shoes that make you feel like, well, you. So go ahead, show off a little. Find shoes that get you at prices that get your budget. Head to your DSW store or DSW.com today. DSW, let us surprise you.
This episode is brought to you by State Farm. Listening to this podcast? Smart move. Being financially savvy? Smart move. Another smart move? Having State Farm help you create a competitive price when you choose to bundle home and auto. Bundling, just another way to save with the Personal Price Plan. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Prices are based on rating plans that vary by state. Coverage options are selected by the customer. Availability, amount of discounts and savings, and eligibility vary by state.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. Stop waiting around for the perfect candidate. Instead, use Indeed sponsored jobs to find the right people with the right skills fast. It's a simple way to make sure your listing is the first candidates see. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs have 4 times more applicants than non-sponsored jobs. So go build your dream team today with Indeed. Get a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
Okay, we're back. You know what's kind of surprised me about myself over the last few weeks is that I have been more understanding than I anticipated I would be since the news has broken. The Epstein files are slowly being available to everyone, and we're learning about so many horrible things. And I mean, I've been fucking pissed about this for a long time. Just rape culture in general has been my sort of hill that I'm going to die on, cross to bear, if you will, topic. There's so many different topics, right, that we could lean into to sort of funnel our passion into. And rape culture is mine. It's just dismantling it, talking about it so we can change the culture at large. And it sort of surprises me as I kind of look at my life right now and like how I'm not more fucking pissed. I mean, I have truly cut all men out of my life over the last few weeks. Dr. Fox and Colton, my son, are the only men that I am allowing into my life. I have stopped talking to. There was someone I was going to hire to be like a mentor who was a man, and I was like, nope, I cannot be around any man that I don't totally and completely trust. And right now that there's only two, my son and my significant other. And when I tell you that Dr. Fox has been getting an earful and he knows he best be honest, best behavior, because thin ice for everyone. And that's sort of how I'm processing my own anger and rage. But I also want to say that I believe that so many men are silent right now, and it doesn't mean that they don't care. I think that sometimes it means that they don't know how to talk about it, that they are worried about saying the wrong thing because if they do, they're going to be attacked, that they're probably afraid that they're going to lose status if they admit that the system benefits them. They are probably worried that they're going to lose their place in a friend group if they criticize the system. They're probably worried that if they admit that they've been internalizing it, that they will have to grieve their entire identity and the person that they thought that they were. And grief is not one of the holy emotions that patriarchy trained them to do well at all. Not for one hot second. If you have seen Brene Brown's TED Talk that she did, I believe it was in 2014. So she had one in 2010. That's the one that went mega viral on vulnerability and courage. But she talks more about shame in the second one. I'll put a link to the show notes in it. It's the one where she has a denim jacket on the TED stage. And there's something that she says in the last 5 minutes of that particular TED Talk, and she says it twice. And she says, if we're going to make our way back to each other. And when she's talking about it, she's talking about how shame is organized differently between men and women. And that particular phrase has stayed with me ever since the very first time I saw that TED Talk all those years ago, 12 years ago now. If we're going to make our way back to each other, that is the thing that keeps me putting one foot in front of the other in the work that I do. Because I believe that in order to heal ourselves and heal the culture, we have to see each other's humanity. We have to make our way back to each other, because so much of the atrocities that happen, whether it is genocide or things on a more micro level, like sexual assault, like pedophilia, like sex trafficking, and the horrible things that we're seeing released that are in the Epstein files, in order for people to participate in that kind of cruelty, dehumanization has to happen. And when you have a culture that is seeped in xenophobia, homophobia, racism, sexism, misogyny, you bet your butt that dehumanization is prevalent. We're soaked in it. And I'm going to be honest with you, our country was built on it. The United States of America was built on dehumanization. You have to. If you build this country, which was stolen land, on the backs of slaves, of people that you stole from their land, that's our foundation, is dehumanization. And so here we are, nearly 250 years later as a nation, and we are paying the price for it. I believe we are paying the price for it. We are looking in the mirror. We are being confronted with the dehumanization that we have participated in. And by we, I mean like as an entire country, as an entire culture. And I know that this goes beyond the United States, but I live in the United States right now. That's where I grew up. So that's why I mention it that way. But we are not alone here in this particular way that we have birthed the nation and kept it going. So if we are going to heal from this and change the culture, we have to, on a pretty large scale, start to see each other's humanity. That is how we make our way back to each other. We have to actually see each other as whole humans. We have to witness each other. And that means witnessing each other's pain, witnessing humans. And so what I know about shame, and I know a lot about shame, is that it only alchemizes or dissolves, metabolizes. I use those words interchangeably because you can't avoid shame. P.S. It needs to be, you need to move through it, not away from it or around it, under it, over it. Nope, you got to move through it. And it alchemizes through accountability and connection. And so if men are going to actually do this work, they need to have spaces where they can confront their own cultural complicity without being completely annihilated and shamed for it, because they'll probably end up worse, or if not, just like stay completely frozen and still if they are trying to take accountability and move through their own shame and all the other feelings, if they're just being shamed more. So it doesn't work that way. So they need to be in a place where they can confront the cultural complicity and take accountability for it without being annihilated. They need spaces where they can grieve the version of themselves, the version of masculinity that they were handed. They didn't get a choice in the matter. So they need to move through the feelings and have conversations with people that they trust where they can grieve that. And they also need a space where they can build a new identity that isn't rooted in domination, power, and control, a new version of masculinity for themselves. And I want to just say that is slow work. It is slow work. It is deeply uncomfortable. And I think a lot of men just don't have the spaces to do that. They can do it with a therapist. I highly recommend that they do it with a therapist. They can do it with a partner who has done their own work. And if you are a woman who is in a relationship or a marriage with a man who is open and ready to do this type of work, I want to say that is a lot of emotional labor for you. And you don't have to take that all on yourself. You do not have to take that all on yourself. Felt like I needed to say that twice. All right. But if you do take it on, I am going to put a few documentaries in the show notes. A couple of them that I've seen are The Mask You Live In. That is from 2015, I think. That one's really good. I have also seen Tough Guys, Guise. Love that. Violence, Media, and the Crisis in Masculinity. That is from 1999. I've seen that version, but apparently it's been updated in 2013, which also wasn't super recent. But that one was one of the producers or directors maybe is a man named Jackson Katz, who has done some great work. He's an educator on masculinity and misogyny and patriarchy, and he's been around for a long time, and I respect his work. There's a few more on that list. One of them is more recent, from 2021, I believe. It's called Beyond Men and Masculinity. So there will be that list of documentaries. That's where I really recommend you start, especially if you're in a relationship with a man, or you want to talk to a man about this and it's tough and he has a really hard time being vulnerable. Sometimes having a jumping off point and something to discuss, like a documentary, can be enormously helpful. And so I'm going to also give you a few questions that you can ask the men in your life and hopefully start a conversation from that. And I recommend that you come at these conversations with an open heart, with not trying to solve any problems and just being kind of a container. And also boundaries. Boundaries can be important here. Watch where you get emotional and take care of yourself. It is not your responsibility. It is not your sole responsibility and job to take care of the men in your life around this topic. I know with firsthand experience, it can be incredibly difficult to unpack with someone that you love and care about. So just make sure you pay attention to yourself and take care of yourself. Boundaries. So here's a few just sort of open-ended questions that might help you get started. You can ask the men in your life, what messages did you receive growing up about what it means to be a real man? Or when you heard the term man up? And how do you feel about those messages now and today? And another question you could ask is, have there been moments in your life where you have felt pressure to stay silent about particular things when you are around other men? And ask them what that was like for them. And I mean, you could even start from the very beginning and ask the question, when conversations about patriarchy happen, when conversations about our culture happen, do you feel defensive? Do you feel disconnected? Do you feel like you need to just shut down and be silent? Do you feel curious? Something else? And then just keep asking, what do you think is underneath that? Where do you think that comes from? When is the youngest that you remember feeling that way? Tell me about it. If you do have a man in your life who is comfortable talking about his emotions, I would ask this question. Ask them, when they see stories or they read about stories or they're reading the Epstein files, like when they see and hear things about systemic abuse, or really what it is, patriarchy being exposed, what comes up for you emotionally? If you slow down and really check what comes up for you emotionally, and just see what they have to say. None of their feelings are wrong. So this is about, again, it's not about fixing it. It's just about allowing the feelings and thoughts and opinions to be verbalized and come out. Some of the men in your life maybe have never had this conversation before, and it might be really helpful for them. And my hope is that it can be life-changing. Again, we have to start somewhere, because shame is metabolized and alchemized through connection and through accountability in this regard when we're talking specifically about this. And hopefully this is a great place to start for you. Thank you for listening, my lovelies. Please follow me and subscribe on Substack. That link will be in the show notes. And remember, it's our life's journey to make ourselves better humans and our life's responsibility to make the world a better place. Bye for now. Hey, did you know there's free secret podcast episodes waiting for you that are not part of my regular podcast feed? Yes, AndreaOwen.com/free. And you just sign up. You get a link sent to you. It's very secret. It's like a secret club. We don't have a secret handshake. Don't worry about that. But it's these motivating podcast episodes that I made for you. They're under 20 minutes each. There's 3 of them. They're for wherever you are in your life. So head on over there and grab them. They range from really supporting you and seeing you where you are and being compassionate, all the way to giving you a giant kick in your ass and telling you how amazing and gorgeous and phenomenal you are. So AndreaOwen.com/free and get your hands on that free podcast feed.